It's 3:30 in the morning. The city of Hue is quiet. It's Tet, the Vietnamese New Year, and most families are asleep or just getting home from celebrations. Firecrackers have been going off for days. Nobody flinches at loud noises anymore. Nobody looks up when one more flare cuts across the sky. Then the phones go dead. Then the rockets start. In the span of about 20 minutes, this city, a place of dynasties, temples, and thick imperial walls, becomes something it hasn't been in a generation, a battlefield. And the men who have to take it back, most of them have never fought inside a city in their lives. To understand why Hue was so hard to fight in, you need to understand what it actually is. Hue sits in central Vietnam, cut in half by the Perfume River. It's one of those rivers that actually earns its name. Slow, wide, almost dreamlike. And on each bank, a completely different world. North of the river, the Citadel, built in the early 1800s by the Nguyen dynasty. Stone walls 20 feet thick. A perimeter nearly 2 miles around. Inside those walls, an imperial city. Courtyards layered inside courtyards. Ceremonial gates. Internal passages that don't go where you think they go. The whole thing was designed to protect an emperor, not survive an M16 firefight. But it turns out those two things have more in common than you'd expect. South of the river, a dense urban grid. Government buildings, markets, schools, residential blocks, the MACV compound where American advisors were stationed. Streets narrow enough that two men walking shoulder to shoulder can almost touch both walls. Population in 1968, over 100,000 people. Now, who's defending all of this? The South Vietnamese 1st Division, under General Ngo Nguyen Chong, one of the most capable commanders in the entire ARVN, which will matter a lot very shortly. His battalions are spread across the region, not concentrated in the city, because nobody seriously thinks a major assault is coming into Hue itself. The nearest American forces are Marines at Phu Bai, a few miles south. Close, but not inside the city. It's Tet. There's a ceasefire. People are home with their families. The NVA have been planning this for months. 0333 hours, January 31st, 1968. A signal flare goes up. It's not random, it's the start signal. Across the city, units that have been quietly infiltrating for days, hidden inside civilian homes, moving in small groups during the holiday crowds, begin to move. Within minutes, the phone lines to ARVN headquarters are cut. Communications collapse. The men inside headquarters can hear explosions, but they can't reach anyone to understand the scope of what's happening. 122mm rockets hit pre-selected targets. Mortar rounds walk across defensive positions. Recoilless rifles engage specific buildings. This isn't indiscriminate shelling. Every target has been assigned in advance. One assault team finds a drainage culvert running under the Citadel's outer wall. They crawl through it. They come up inside. Gates are forced from both sides at once. Guards who'd been asleep for an hour are dead before they can radio anyone. By the time the sun comes up over the Perfume River, roughly 8,000 North Vietnamese and Viet Cong troops control most of Hue. The ARVN headquarters compound is still holding, barely. General Chong is inside. He's already making calls, repositioning what units he can reach. He doesn't panic. He doesn't flee. That decision to hold that compound is going to anchor the entire counterattack. South of the river, the MACV compound, a walled complex housing American advisors, is under fire but not overrun. The Marines there beat back the initial assault and dig in. Those are two small islands in a city that has functionally just changed hands. The first Marines to respond don't know what they're walking into. Task Force X-Ray, based at Phu Bai, gets fragmentary reports through the night. The initial assessment, and I want to be honest about this, is badly wrong. Early reports suggest a company-sized attack, maybe a few hundred enemy, manageable. On the morning of January 31st, a convoy of Marines in trucks and a few tanks head north up Highway 1 toward Hue. They drive into an ambush. Route 1, the road into the city, is covered. They take fire from both sides. The convoy fights through it, takes casualties, and limps into the MACV compound. And now they can see it, the flag of the National Liberation Front, what Americans call the Viet Cong, flying over the Citadel's main tower, right over the Imperial flagpole. A flag that big, visible across the entire city. It was put there deliberately. It was a message. The Marines who've just driven through an ambush to get here look at that flag, and they understand. This is not a company-sized attack. This is going to take a while. Here's the thing about urban combat that nobody who hasn't done it fully appreciates until they're in it. Speed kills you. In open terrain, you use speed. You move fast, you flank, you exploit gaps. In a city, moving fast means turning a corner without knowing what's on the other side. It means walking through a doorway that somebody has had an hour to booby trap. It means running down a street that overlooks 3 different rooftops. The Marines in Hue learned this fast. Every block was a problem to be solved, not a distance to be covered. A typical advance: suppress the building in front of you, breach a wall to the side, not the door, the wall, enter low, clear every room before you move to the next one. Check above you, check behind you, push to the next building. Repeat for 24 days. The NBA had prepared for exactly this. Interior walls had been breached between buildings so defenders could move between structures without stepping into the street. Firing positions were set back from windows so muzzle flash couldn't be spotted. Snipers worked in pairs, one drawing attention, one shooting. The Marines couldn't use their biggest advantages, air support and artillery, at full capacity. Not at first. Hue was a populated city. It had historic and religious sites. ROE, rules of engagement, restricted heavy fires in the early days of the battle. What that meant in practice: small units of Marines going room to room, taking fire from buildings they couldn't call in airstrikes on. Eventually those restrictions were loosened. They had to be, but it changed the character of the city permanently. South of the river is where the Marines are doing most of the early fighting. 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, then elements of 2-5. Units cycling in as the fight evolves. They're pushing block by block from the MACV compound, trying to clear the southern half of the city. The key terrain features down here aren't hills or rivers, they're intersections. Crossroads where you're exposed from 4 directions at once. Buildings that overlook the streets. The provincial prison, held by NBA, acting as a fortress. The treasury, the hospital. Every one of these buildings had to be cleared. Cleared means every floor, every room, every stairwell. Marines move in teams, 4 or 5 men. One guy goes through the door, or through the hole they've blown in the wall. The others cover. You learn very quickly to never use the obvious entrance. The obvious entrance is where the gun is pointed. The fighting is so close that grenades are almost more useful than rifles. Close enough to hear the people on the other side of the wall. By the end of the first week, the Marines have a rhythm. It's brutal and grinding, and it costs them every single day, but they have a rhythm. The South Bank is cleared by mid-February. Then they have to cross the river. North of the river, inside the Citadel, the fight belongs primarily to the ARVN, and I want to spend a moment on that, because the ARVN, in Hue, often gets written out of the story. General Chong's 1st Division, the Black Panthers, they held the headquarters compounds from day one. They didn't break, and they're the ones leading the assault on the Citadel. U.S. Marines, specifically 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, cross the river and enter the Citadel to support them. But this fight is ARVN-led. And the Citadel is unlike anything they've fought in before. It's not just a walled city. It's a city inside a city inside a city. The outer wall, then the Imperial City inside that, then the Forbidden Purple City inside that, courtyard, gate, courtyard, gate. Every gate is a checkpoint, and the people defending them know every passage, every angle, every shadow. Progress is measured in gates, in walls, in days. The NBA flag flies over the Citadel for more than 2 weeks. On February 24th, South Vietnamese Marines raised their country's flag over the Citadel's main tower. It takes almost the entire battle to get there. Here's what the battle cost, in the most basic terms we have. U.S. Marines, 142 killed, around 1,100 wounded. U.S. Army elements, 68 killed, 453 wounded. ARVN and South Vietnamese Marines, over 400 killed, more than 2,100 wounded. Enemy casualties, and these are estimates, always estimates in a fight like this, somewhere between 2,500 and 5,000 killed. Those are the military numbers, but they don't tell the whole story. When the fighting ended and the people started to come back to their homes, they found things. Graves, shallow, in fields, in gardens, in the sand flats outside the city. Mass graves in some cases. As weeks turned into months, excavations continued. The number of bodies recovered climbed. Eventually, approximately 3,000 civilians, men, women, teachers, local officials, civil servants, people whose crime, as far as anyone could determine, was being associated with the South Vietnamese government, or the Catholic Church, or just being prominent in their neighborhood. Many were found bound. A significant number showed signs of execution at close range. Reports at the time, and the physical evidence backed this up, described groups buried alive. Captured documents from NVA and Viet Cong units referred to the elimination of nearly 3,000 people described as, quote, tyrants, the term used for anyone connected to the existing government structure. This was not the fog of war. This was not crossfire. These were organized killings carried out during the occupation against civilians who posed no military threat. North Vietnamese accounts, then and since, have disputed the scale and the characterization. They've attributed many of the deaths to American bombing and combat effects. That explanation doesn't hold up against the physical evidence. The bound hands, the mass pits, the execution-style wounds. More than 4,000 civilians died in Hue during the battle, roughly 1,200 from combat, artillery, crossfire, the unavoidable horror of urban warfare. The rest from this. 115,000 people were left without homes. I'm going to say that again. 115,000 people in a city of just over 100,000. That number's higher than the population because of refugees who had fled into the city before the battle. They had nowhere else to go. The battle for Hue ended in late February. The city was back under South Vietnamese control, and nothing was the same afterward. Militarily, the battle revealed something that commanders had to reckon with. The NVA could assemble, infiltrate, and hold a major urban center in the middle of a war they were supposedly losing. That required serious rethinking of how cities were defended, how intelligence was evaluated, how ceasefire periods were handled. The urban fighting also exposed gaps in training and doctrine. American forces in 1968 were structured for counterinsurgency and open terrain maneuver. Hue was neither. The lessons learned in those streets about clearing, about coordination, about the relationship between firepower and collateral damage got written down. Some of them would show up again decades later. But the biggest change wasn't military, it was political. The American public had been told the war was going well, that urban areas were secure, that the enemy was on the back foot. And then the news showed Hue. It showed Marines fighting street to street in a city that was supposed to be safely behind the lines. Hue didn't end the war. It didn't even redirect it immediately. But it contributed to a shift in how the American public understood what they'd been told and what was actually happening 9,000 miles away. Some decisions made later that year, including Lyndon Johnson's decision not to seek re-election, happened in the shadow of what Hue revealed. The Citadel is still there. The Perfume River still divides the city. The walls are still standing, thick as they ever were. Hue today is a tourist destination. People visit the Imperial City. They walk through the gates the Marines and ARVN soldiers cleared room by room in February 1968. They take photos. I find that both strange and completely appropriate. Cities survive. They carry what happened in them differently than a battlefield does. You can walk the same streets, stand in the same courtyards, and it's quiet now, and it's beautiful. And somewhere underneath that, if you know what happened there, it's something else too. The men who fought in Hue, American Marines, South Vietnamese soldiers, the civilians who survived it, the families who lost people to the occupation killings. They carried what happened there for the rest of their lives. Most of them didn't talk about it much. That's usually how it goes. I'm Dave. Thanks for watching. If this kind of history matters to you, hit subscribe, leave a comment. I genuinely read them. And I'll see you in the next one.
He's a Dave, dude. Dave's got to stick together, you know what I mean?